Hey boys and girls, here we go. We're continuing on main idea and we're going to be working out of our orange book, and this is day 4 for week 5. So week 5, day 4, main idea, and we're working on Earth's layers. And you also have your Word document that's going to be up on your split screen. You have your video going right now, obviously, of me in one corner, and then you're also going to have your orange book laying down in front of you. So when we're talking about main idea, remember we're only focusing in on nonfiction. And what nonfiction is facts, 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 and information. I always told kids it's kind of like a boxing match, like fact, 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 fact. And the punches are coming at you one after the other, one after the other. And it's a lot of information for our brains to absorb, even adults. So how do we help? We make what's known as an outline. These outlines help us absorb that information, tell you what the main idea is, and then, we can teach ourselves and other people about certain things. Like, for example, if someone came and asked you, why do leaves change colors? You're not going to say, well, because it gets cold out. No, because based off of our answer, it's because of that answer. That keyword we had was chlorophyll, because there's a chlorophyll. There's a substance in there that's green, and by the way, there's also an orange and yellow pigment inside them, and the chlorophyll dies away. Therefore, the other colors kind of pop through. Boom, you answered that question. Okay, so doing this helps you understand a text. And nonfiction is tough. Nonfiction is tough, especially if you don't have background knowledge on them. So we're working this week a little bit more on plate collisions and earthquakes. And our study is, the whole entire thing is Earth's layers and plates. So in class, if you remember, we talked about all the different layers of Earth. And then our first video, day 3, we did continental drift. And continental drift led us all the way to page 64, paragraph 9. And we're going to start today, boys and girls, on page 64, paragraph 10. Plate collisions and earthquakes. So as we're reading, what do good readers do? Good readers try to identify the main idea. Sometimes the author flat out tells us what the main idea is, and other times we have to infer, what is the gist of this? What are they telling me? So as I'm reading, I want your brains to kind of do that. I want your brains to go, okay, are they telling us the main idea, or do I got to figure something out myself? And sometimes they say it, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's a little harder because you got to make an inference and you have to come up with something based off of what the information is. And don't worry about inferencing. Inferencing is another skill that we'll also be doing. So we have plate collisions and earthquakes. When two plates collide, one plate pushes over top of the other. The plate on the bottom moves down toward the ocean floor. The plate on the top rises. The shifting of the bottom plate is what causes earthquakes. So I want you right now, go into that text, pause my video, and type in what you think paragraph 10's main idea is. Okay, so you've unpaused me. That means you have typed in something in paragraph 10 right before here, and you think you know what it is. Now, remember, sometimes the author flat out tells us what goes on. One of the important things, an important detail at the end, we heard about earthquakes. So I'm going to go ahead and just say that this has what, so I'm going to put the word, what causes earthquakes. Okay? So our main idea is what causes earthquakes. Basically, that's the gist in there. And they told us, what are my details that cause earthquakes? I want you to fill in 2 details that you feel are important to causing earthquakes. Okay, so your 2 details, you have one plate pushes on another. Okay. One plate pushes on another plate. And then the second one that you have there is the shifting position causes earthquakes. Okay. So the shifting position of, let's say, the bottom plate. So I'm going to just show you with two cards. So we have two plates here, and I know this is hard to see, but I'll try to do this like air. I know there's a little bit of a bend in my plates here. So when you get two plates together, and they kind of, one plate pushes on another plate, they rub against each other, so you'll kind of see the one plate go underneath the other and over top, and then when these plates rub against each other, it causes an earthquake. And that's basically what our paragraph was about. What causes an earthquake? And that is our topic so far of plate collisions and earthquakes. So we found out what happens when plates collide so far. Not good things happen, earthquakes. All right, so hopefully you're pausing the video because it's going to be really fast if you just watch me, because it takes you a little bit of time to probably go back and read. So we're going to go now into paragraphs 11 and 12. So I've identified paragraphs in 11 and 12 for you. Both have the same main idea. It's a little different than this first main idea. In the first main idea, in paragraph 10, we learn about what causes earthquakes, or, you know, the causes of earthquakes. So now 11 and 12 is a little bit different. They do talk about earthquakes a little bit, but they get a little bit more specific and a little different main idea. So let's look at paragraph 11 and 12. Sometimes plates slide past each other instead of colliding. These plates move back and forth. This movement creates a fault line. Some of the world's largest earthquakes occur at fault lines. In some places, you can actually see evidence of shifting plates at the Earth's surface. The San Andreas Fault in California is an enormous crack in the Earth's surface. The crack occurs at the boundary between the North American and Pacific plates. As these plates shift, this fault also shifts. This movement can cause large earthquakes in California. Okay, so I want you to go back on your own, paragraph 11 and 12, reread that, and do what good readers do. What is the main idea about both of those? Now, I'll give you a clue. It does not have to be a detailed sentence, doesn't have to describe anything. It's short and sweet. Usually our main ideas are short and sweet, okay? Okay, so paragraph 11 and paragraph 12. What is the main idea? Fault lines. Okay, now if you have a detail up there, if you have a detail like the San Andreas fault line, or what a fault line is, just put fault lines. That's it. So if you did put San Andreas fault line, or what a fault line is at a crack in the earth, you pick the detail. The topic is fault lines. The author kind of tells us the main idea in paragraph 11. They tell us what fault lines are. So we're going to put that as your first detail. So go ahead. When plates slide past each other. That is completely different from what we had before. If you remember, our plates were going into each other. We had one plate pushing over top of the other, okay, and that bottom plate moving, that causes my earthquake here. Now we have two plates that are side by side. So I'm going to kind of hold you like this. They're my fault line. The plates are going, I'll hold it up like this, side by side. There we go. So this would be a fault line. They're not pushing into each other. They're doing side by side right there, okay? Side by side, fault line. All right, so if we're going down to there, now let's find another detail. They have large earthquakes. And California is a beautiful state to live in, but they have a fear of earthquakes, and some very bad earthquakes have happened out towards California. And in fact, right on that fault line, which is, let's write it down, another part idea, the San Andreas fault line. And I'm going to put crack in earth. So it says, as these plates shift, the fault line also shifts. This movement can cause large earthquakes. we said that there's also a crack at the boundary or the crack in the earth. Okay? So if you have a fault line, two plates rub against each other, there's my fault line. So now we have our plate collisions and earthquakes. So now we know how earthquakes happen. We have the two plates colliding. One plate kind of runs underneath the other, like so, causing the lands to obviously have earthquakes. And then you have fault lines where they are side by side of each other and they rub against each other like so. Okay? So that is our Word document. Don't be done with the video, because what I want you to do, I want you to turn your books to page 62. And I want you to look at that on page 62. And I want you to find the North American plate. Now that's obviously our continent that we are on, the North American plate. And you'll see also the Caribbean plate is very close to us, and the Pacific plate is also close to us. So put your finger on that North American plate in your book, and put your finger on the Pacific plate on your book. So you have two fingers. One finger's on the North American plate on page 62, and then the other one's on the Pacific plate. And I want you to find where California would be, which, boys and girls, it's on the far west side, far west coast of our country. And you will see California, boys and girls, there's red dots that literally run pretty much right through there. Well, that's the San Andreas fault line. And we talked about how San Andreas fault line has large earthquakes. Well, there's our reason right there. The Pacific plate and the North American plate meet right at California. So there's a huge reason right there of why we in New York don't have any. I mean, we get like tremors every couple of years. We don't even feel them though. Because they happen very far away. We're in the middle of the plate. If you think of where we are, if you look at the word Caribbean, we're a little bit above the word the R in Caribbean there. So that's where we are. We're right in the middle of the North American plate. We're not getting any earthquakes. Versus California, yeah, they're very far away from us. They're thousands of miles away from us, and they're literally practically some people living right on that San Andreas fault line. Okay? It's a scary thing, and yeah, there's a Hollywood movie about it. It's got The Rock in it. Very unrealistic parts of that, but some of it is real, that the San Andreas fault line does still move and can cause some pretty massive and scary earthquakes. I believe in the movie, one of the scenes, the San Andreas fault line just literally just like opens up, and you know, all Hollywood effects, and there's cars and all sorts of tragic events that happen. But that's part of our reading that we had there, and it's a real thing. It's the San Andreas fault line. Okay, so boys and girls, we continue on next week on our video tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to cover two topics. So today was a very short topic of plate collisions and earthquakes. The previous topic, if you remember, was about continental drift and how continents are moving away from each other. Remember the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, how we are getting actually closer to China. Not by a lot, but we're getting closer to China because the Pacific Ocean is crumbling and the Atlantic Ocean is actually getting wider. Again, not by much, but millions of years from now, the Atlantic Ocean will be quite large. And tomorrow, we're going to learn a little bit more about plate collisions and mountain ranges. So we talked about earthquakes today. So our topic tomorrow is going to change just a little bit. We're going to do plate collisions and mountain ranges. And then the last one is making predictions. So at the end of the week, you're going to have this gorgeous Word document that you guys have worked on, and you're going to submit it to me, and that's going to be 100 in your book. That's it. That's your grade for ELA for the week. So how awesome is that? Very proud of you guys. You've been working really hard on Main Idea. We're about halfway through it. We got a little bit more this week, and we're heading new information next week. So take care, and I'll see you for day 5.